Welcome back, Hand Axe and Satchel viewers. Today we're going to be doing a very exciting and very interesting video, too, on Pearl Harbor. You're going to learn so much about it, it's going to be insane. By the end, the only better experience will have actually been going there during it, which would have been pretty dangerous to do anyway. So just come with me on this tour of Pearl Harbor. You're going to learn so much, so let's stick around to the end and dive right in, really. Probably, if not the best thing about this video that you're probably not going to find anywhere else, is that I'm going to give you a timeline. Now, to start out this timeline, we have at 1 a.m. midget subs were released. Now, these are Japanese midget subs. This is an example on screen of what they look like. You're going to be seeing this picture many more times, but without the actual Japanese midget sub text, so you can see even more of the screen. But yes, that was at 1 a.m., and there's going to be a few jumps into the timeline at the beginning, but it's going to get fast and interesting at the end. Then, at 3:42 a.m., the wake of a Japanese sub was spotted by American forces around Pearl Harbor. Mind you, that's a pretty big jump, 2 hours and 42 minutes. At 6:30 a.m., General Fuchida begins towards Pearl Harbor with his air fleet. This is a picture of him. At 6:45 a.m., the first shot was fired at the sub that they had seen the wake of at 3:42 a.m. and that was the first shot fired at that sub, and more importantly, mind you, at 6:45 a.m., so note that down, the first shot fired in the war, in the Second World War, from the U.S. Now, this was when U.S. first got involved. Very important. The next important part was at 6:51 a.m., and that was when an important message went out. Depth-bombed sub operating in defensive sea area. Then, at 7:55 a.m., the first bomb dropped on Ford Island Naval Air Station. That was at 7:55. Now, we're still before most of the very interesting bombings, catching fire, all those sorts of things happened, but that was when the first bomb dropped on the Ford Naval Air Station, and that is a picture of it on screen. At 7:57 a.m., just 2 minutes after the first bomb dropped at Ford Island Naval Air Station, the U.S.S. Helena caught fire. Also, this is a pretty big ship, but nothing compared to U.S. aircraft carriers nowadays. Well, I'll be darned, there's another important announcement, but it was very important, and it was at 7:58, 1 minute after the U.S.S. Helena caught fire, and it said, "Air raid on Pearl Harbor. This is no drill." Well, it wasn't a drill, it was an air raid. It's a good thing they put the message out, and it was a very important message, it was a very iconic message, and so that's another note to put down in your notebooks. At 8:08 a.m., the Oklahoma was gone, and 400 plus soldiers and sailors died. Then, at 8:11 a.m., a bomb struck the Arizona's forward powder magazines and boilers, and it all just went off, and 1,000 plus more immediately were killed. Then, at 8:25 a.m., Fuchida's group left, and that was the end of that first attack force, but unfortunately, that was not it. By 8:30 a.m., the enemy had virtually vanished from the skies, and George Welch and Kenneth Taylor hopped in their P-40s. Now, if you don't know what a P-40 looks like, you're about to find out, but these are what George Welch and Kenneth Taylor look like, and they went up and they tried to look for the enemy, and they were actually the only ones credited with air kills on all of Pearl Harbor, so that's pretty impressive. Just like I promised, here is a picture of a P-40, the same type of P-40s that Welch and Taylor would have been in. And then, at 8:40, the U.S.S. Nevada set out because it did not want to be a sitting duck, and it thought that if it could get to the open sea, it could actually move around and defend itself, which was a good idea, but so it set out. I'm not going to tell you, you're going to have to wait like 5 more minutes, well, at least in this time, not 5 minutes in real time. Then, by 8:41, Shimazaki's planes had come. Welch and Taylor were actually up in the air, because before they had mainly just been getting to the airshore where they could get off and up into the air. And Japan's strafers were there. And by 9 o'clock, the Nevada had stopped its voyage because it knew that if it was actually bombed and was forced to be stuck in the middle of the canal getting out, that would leave the entire harbor blocked off, and that wasn't good. So it ended its little spree of deceit. Next, at 9:12 a.m., the U.S.S. Shaw took a hit. Also, one thing to notice is how this particular boat has like way higher edges on one side and way shorter edges on the other. That's kind of interesting. But unfortunately, it gets worse. By 9:30, the fire on the Shaw from the hit at 9:12 had reached the forward magazines. And in case you don't remember from what happened to the Arizona, when a fire or an explosion happens anywhere near the forward magazines, the entire ship is gone. And that's unfortunately the same fate that happened to the Shaw. Then, at 9:37, 7 minutes after the U.S.S. Shaw was toast, the U.S.S. Cassin took a hit, and that represented the last big explosion on Pearl Harbor, which is good that it was the last big explosion, but still, many things were lost by that point. Next, at 10:02 a.m., the U.S.S. California was abandoned. This is a picture of the U.S.S. California. By 3 o'clock p.m., two men who were tapping, and they used tapping to try and get attention from the people outside that they were still underneath, because the last ones had sank and everything was flipped, so they were trapped inside. Two men who were tapping the U.S.S. California were saved. Unfortunately, two men, or I think it was four men in the U.S.S. Oklahoma were not saved and were only abandoned on Christmas Eve, and that was many days later. And at 11:27 a.m., now I know I did jump, but at 11:27 a.m., 4 B-26s launched to search for the enemy. By that time, the enemy was pretty much just gone. I thought I'd throw in a picture of the U.S.S. Condor. That's an interesting boat. A fun, but actually sad fact. So the U.S.S. Arizona, where 1,000 men were killed instantly, was carrying so much fuel at the time that it was demolished, really. That when it sank, it has so much fuel that it's still currently emitting and leaking fuel. So if you look in this picture, kind of in the middle, you can see fuel and oil still leaking. Next, this is the Japanese Zero. It was a very devastating plane on Pearl Harbor. It was the Mitsubishi Zero, and it was a fighter. And there were 43 of those used. This is Japanese General Yamamoto. He was the one who essentially organized the entire attack. This is a fun and very interesting picture. You can pause it, replay it to this point because you might want to, and I'm going to be giving you a lot of stats. So the deaths, or first I'll start with the amount of aircraft lost. There were 96 Army aircraft lost, 92 Navy and Marine aircraft, and 159 aircraft damaged. Even worse than the military aircraft loss was a tragic amount of humans lost. 2,403 were dead, 68 of that number were civilians. Another 1,100, or nearly 1,200 people were wounded. Surprisingly, it wasn't just Pearl Harbor that was attacked. Every airfield on Oahu was attacked. For these reasons, it is important that we remember Pearl Harbor and never forget about the sacrifices that these brave men and women made for our country, and that we just salute them in every way possible and thank them for their service. So thank you. And, well, you've learned a lot about Pearl Harbor, and wait to the next slide. On a happier note, World War II might have gone on much longer had the U.S. not gotten involved, and more people would have been killed. And the last thing that we need was more people being killed, so it worked out, not horribly. It was very tragic, though, at the time. So, there's that. Thank you for watching. I hope you did learn a lot. Please subscribe. It really helps to see more things like this. Go check out my other videos. Have a great day. Hand, Doc, and Satchel.